What we're building, or what we've been trying to build, is a digital history project. It's basically a digital archive based on Foote's diaries. The diaries are the most unique part of all of the papers that we have from Shelby Foote. And these diaries are over a period of many, many years, approximately 3 decades. Each day Foote would jot something down in this little sort of calendar book. And what we've been able to do is to take those calendar books and to scan them. He wrote in kind of an odd script that's hard to read. So in addition to scanning them, we've been trying to transcribe them. And especially we've been trying to annotate, to add background and context to help readers make sense of what's in these diaries. He's writing these in the 1970s, 80s, and 1990s. And so the annotations focus on what he was doing at the time, what was going on in Memphis at the time, what was happening in terms of Civil War scholarship, Southern history, all those things that kind of intersect with what's written down in the diaries. So we've been trying to build this digital project that really will be useful, especially for historians of the South, historians of Memphis, as well as scholars of Foote and Southern literature. So it's a great Memphis project, and it's a great digital project. This project, Digital Shelby Foote, really stands at the intersection of pedagogy and research. It's really both of those things, because the project is closely tied to the Shelby Foote course, which I've now taught twice at Rhodes, but it's also turned into a sort of research project, not only for me and for Maddie. As I mentioned, we were able to work on this article together, but it will also be useful for other scholars, because once we've built this digital archive, it will then be used by scholars throughout the country and really throughout the world. And there's a great deal of interest in Shelby Foote and the American Civil War and Southern literature outside of this country. So we really expect that once this archive has been finished and is online and is available to everyone, that it will be very useful. What we have at this point is a few years of Foote's diary, which have been totally scanned, transcribed, and annotated on the web. As I said, there are about 3 decades worth of these diaries. So much of that we've already scanned. Some of it we've already transcribed. None of that, though, have we annotated. And that's where teaching the Shelby Foote course really helps, because students in that course were able to do a significant part of the annotation. In other words, they were really able to, I was able to assign them a month from the diary, to each of the 15 students in this class. And their work then was to go into that month and to try to fill in some of the gaps and to interpret things that would need interpretation for a wider audience. And these students, basically having been in this class for a semester, had learned so much about Foote and his understanding of the Civil War that they were really the ideal group to be doing all that annotation. So we sort of turned them into Foote scholars over a period of 14 weeks, and by the end of the semester they were doing the annotation. So as I teach this course again, and I'm sort of scheduled to teach it every other year on an ongoing basis, we will continue to build this project, which, as I said, will probably have a life for many years to come. I would love to be able to do something, and I've been thinking about this. I haven't talked about it. You're the first ones to hear about it. How exciting. I would like to create something called Project Memphis. 2 years from now, in 2019, Memphis will celebrate its 200th birthday. And what I'd like to do through a course that I'm teaching the History 300, which is the methods class for history majors. I'd love to, if I taught that over the next 4 semesters, this would be kind of a 2-year project. Every student in that course would be working on a history of some event or person or structure in early Memphis history for the first year, the first century of Memphis history. And then the second year that I taught it, it would be, topics from the second century of the history of Memphis. So, in the end then, we would have this very interesting set of student projects, and they would be digital projects that would be all part of a website, a virtual encyclopedia or database of Memphis history, whatever you want to call it. But it would have images and it would have film, but the backbone would be what the students actually produced through their research. And we would have partnerships with Memphis Heritage, which does preservation of old buildings. We'd have partnerships with the Memphis Public Library. Students would go to the Memphis Room to find the primary sources to help them to write these things. And we would bring all that stuff together in some digital way so that at the bicentennial of Memphis, 2 years from now, we would have this Rhodes Project Memphis, which would be all about 200 years of the history of Memphis, and it would be basically created by Rhodes College students and our partners in the city. And I think that would be great, but it's not easily done without the institutional support and the digital portal, or whatever terms you use to kind of put all that stuff into. So if that existed, if there was that sort of an infrastructure, we could do the work to create the content and bring together the pictures and the video footage and the other things that would be part of that. But I mean, again, I'm a historian, I'm not an IT person, so I need to know, or I need to hand all that off to somebody else in order for them to create it in a sort of technological way. But I have the idea to teach the course. I'd love to do it. So that's just one example of, just give someone some time to think about a digital project. We could come up with endless projects and possibilities that would really not only offer great opportunities for our students, but would help to put Rhodes on the map and strengthen our ties to Memphis. And you could go down the list of all the advantages. But figuring out how to make that work from an institutional standpoint, that's what the challenge is.